Everyone, it's your girl Samantha here, and I just wanted to talk about this story that's coming out of Texas over the last hour. It was just published with USA Today, and it states that the Supreme Court allows challengers to continue to fight against Texas 6-week abortion ban. So let me go ahead and play this video really quickly, and then I will read the article and jump into my commentary.
This law in Texas is by far the most restrictive abortion law on the books anywhere in the nation. It essentially says that once a fetal heartbeat can be detected, that an abortion cannot take place. That's usually around 6 weeks. The reason why the Texas law is in place when all of these other laws have been shot down is because of this enforcement mechanism. Usually when a state passes restrictions on abortion, those restrictions are enforced by state officials. What Texas did was very unusual. It said, all right, the state is not going to play a role in enforcing this law, and instead what we're going to do is we're going to allow private citizens to sue abortion providers and also any entity or person that helps a woman get an abortion. Think about the Uber driver, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, right? Anybody who is involved in helping this happen would potentially be liable to a private lawsuit, and the penalties start at $10,000. What that's done is it's sort of put a freeze on abortions, which is why they're not happening after 6 weeks in Texas right now. The Supreme Court basically said, look, we got some concerns about this Texas law, but we can't stop it because no private party had brought a lawsuit yet. Courts don't stop laws. They stop people from enforcing laws. So that's what happened in early September, and the law went into effect. And what has since happened is that the Justice Department now has a new lawsuit. It has the ability to get around some of these procedural questions about who can be sued because it can sue Texas directly, and that's what it did. There have already been some conservative state lawmakers who have said that they are going to look to pass a similar law. I think these states will wait to see what the Supreme Court ultimately does with this enforcement issue. The problem that conservatives might have is that progressives can do this too. And there has already been talk about, well, we can't pass a law that violates the Second Amendment, but what if we passed a law that said people who support gun restrictions can launch private lawsuits against people with certain types of handguns? I think that there is a broad understanding that this opens the door to some potential problems for both sides.
There's still a lot going on with the abortion law that is in Texas. And as the journalist stated, so it's a very interesting way that Texas went about doing this. They can't exactly specifically ban abortion, so they're allowing people to sue abortion clinics and people who assist in the abortions, to get around, to basically persuade people or what do you call it? Like keep people from getting those abortions after 6 weeks. So the Supreme Court on Friday said that clinics challenging a Texas ban on abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy could continue that fight in lower federal courts, but once again permitted the law to remain in place for now. The move, which sends the underlying controversy back to a lower court, came more than a month after the justices heard arguments in a pair of challenges to the law, including one from the Biden administration and another from abortion clinics who said the measure effectively outlawed abortion in Texas. Writing for the court, Associate Justice Neil Gorsuch said that 8 justices agreed that the clinic's lawsuit could continue against one set of defendants. State officials who licensed the clinics and who would have to determine if those facilities violated the law. After months of frenzy around the Texas law, the decision Friday was unlikely to fully satisfy either side. Instead, the legal battle over the law, will continue. So that's what I read into that and gathered from that, is that the Supreme Court basically, lobbied it back, what do you call it? I'm at a loss for words, but they basically sent it back down to the lower court. So it's like we're just going to be passing it back and forth and no real solution here. So either side is not really happy because neither side really got an answer to, why they were even in Supreme Court to begin with. So these provisions, among others, effectively chill the provision of abortions in Texas. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote in a concurring opinion joined by the court's 3 liberals. Texas says that the law also blocks any pre-enforcement judicial review in federal court. On that latter contention, Texas is wrong. Associate Justice Sonia Sotomayor criticized her colleagues in a partial dissent for not putting the law on hold while lower courts decide the case. She says she hoped lower courts would move quickly to stay the law. The Supreme Court should have put an end to this madness months ago, Sotomayor wrote. It failed to do so then, and it fails again today. The court dismissed a separate appeal filed by the Biden administration. Despite the attention the Texas ban has received from both anti-abortion and abortion rights advocates, the 2 cases dealt with procedural questions about who could sue and be sued, not the law's constitutionality. During oral arguments on November 1st, the justices wrestled for 3 hours over those issues because of the possible impact beyond abortion. Since that time, the court heard arguments about Mississippi's ban on most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. In that case, Mississippi has asked the court to overturn the 1973 Roe decision that established the constitutional right to abortion. A majority of the court indicated it is inclined to at least uphold the Mississippi law. This is a mess. This is a mess. This is a mess. It's like you've already came out with the Roe versus Wade court decision, and now you're effectively overturning it. And it's just, to me, it's occurring because white people are seeing that their populations are diminishing, and they're really just getting desperate. But it's also interesting that the same group of people who are fighting to overturn the abortion law and allowing women to get abortions, they're fighting for gun rights. They're fighting to have these access to these like military style weapons. So it just doesn't, it's like, make it make sense. It doesn't make any sense. So once these children are born, are you going to take care of them? Because women are typically getting abortions because they can't take care of the child. They're not in the right place in their lives, etc. And it should not be just on us, but it is, because it's the baby's in our body, because guys get to have their fun and they get to run off and be a deadbeat dad or be there if they feel like it or whatever. And then on top of that, they don't have to carry the baby for 9 months, and they're not expected to, take care of the baby. Usually it falls on the mother, let's be honest. So I think this is ludicrous that a state can force a woman to go through with a 9-month pregnancy. It's like you're basically controlling a part of my body. And I just think that's very shameful. I can see, once the baby is viable and can actually live outside the womb. But they're saying, as soon as you see a heartbeat, you're seeing a heartbeat, but it's like the very, very, very primitive beginning of the cells coming together. I'm not a doctor, but whatever, you need the orders or something, whatever the primitive part is coming together to create that heartbeat. But that fetus is not actually viable to be living outside of the mother's womb. So for you to basically force her to continue with that pregnancy when the baby's not even actually an actual baby yet is quite ludicrous, actually. So the Texas law signed by Republican Governor Greg Abbott in May bans abortion once cardiac activity is identified in an embryo, usually around 6 weeks of pregnancy. And to be honest, most women don't even know they're pregnant that early. And then even if you do know, you still have to have your time to think about what you want to do. It's a huge decision. And then you have to schedule an appointment, which could be, weeks out. So this is not realistic. So the law includes no exception for rape or incest, but permits the procedure for medical emergencies. That's disgusting, that you will force a woman who's been raped or through incest or with stranger or whatever to go through with the pregnancy. You basically are taking away the rights of women's own rights over their bodies. It's horrible. So, but in the case at issue dealt with provisions of the law other than abortion, namely its enforcement, rather than outlawing the procedure after 6 weeks and requiring state officials to enforce the prohibition, Texas authorized and incentivized private citizens to sue providers, nurses, and anyone else who helped a person obtain an abortion in violation of the law. That effectively shut down abortions in Texas, as clinics owners said they were concerned about potential liability. Many Texans seeking an abortion crossed state lines in clinics in several surrounding states reported an increase in patients. Texas enforcement mechanism complicated efforts to temporarily block the law because it isn't clear who will sue to enforce it until such a suit is actually filed. Similar gestational age bans on abortion in other states have been struck down for violating the Supreme Court's precedents in Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey, which held that people may get an abortion up to the point a fetus is viable outside of the womb, about 24 weeks. A 5-4 majority of the court on September 1st denied a request by abortion clinics to halt the Texas law on jurisdictional grounds. The New Orleans-based U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit declined to stop the law from taking effect. So I'm wondering, like, why they were able to do it in other states, but they can't do it in Texas. Like, what is it? Because Texas is not, their law is not directly affecting the Roe versus Wade law, or, you know, like, it's just really interesting, like, how they found that loophole, and that's how they're winning right now, apparently. So you guys, let me know what you think about this really controversial topic in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.